course, been just spooking around the edges of CD-ROM.
I've, of course, been just spooking around the edges of CD-ROM for a while, and looking at it's kind of trying to figure out what its potential could be, or whatever, you know. And I had been very struck with the fact that this company, Voyager, moved from California to New York, which was a very unusual thing, because most the electronic world in the United States happens in Silicon Valley. Well, first, I guess what struck me in terms of artists working with it was that this visual aesthetic of CD-ROM seemed to be very much kind of very flat, bright, cartoony kind of thing, looking a lot like heavy metal record covers, you know, just the gothic lettering, dripping blood, knights in there, you know, somehow, and this, in the background, this kind of craggy landscape, and I thought that's the clue, because one of the easiest things, it's almost like a automatic program in any kind of like Photoshop or whatever. It's a basic fractal program. You push a button and you get craggy mountains. So they almost dictate the look of this brittle, bright, kind of flat thing. And so I thought, well, really, I knew in doing a CD-ROM, I wouldn't want to do that kind of look. And also, the game aspect didn't really appeal to me either. I mean, I'm not a very competitive person, and also I'm a lousy loser, frankly, and scoreboards, you know, going on. I was fine at soccer and basketball and so on, but in this, I don't know, it just puts me on edge. I had a queasy feeling about the kind of fake work aspect of it as well, you know, like you're kind of doing this typing and sort of changing things, but not really, you know, and or you get to remix something, but do you get to put it out? You know, no, you don't. You can remix the record, but you can't distribute it. So I thought, wait, this is like, in addition, I have to remix my own things, so it doesn't seem like that much fun to remix somebody else's. For other people, it would probably be fun. It was really a lot of fun to do because it's actually the way my own mind works. It's in an associative way. After scene one, you know, there is no narrative, not that kind of narrative. So the first scene, let's say, tries to express that, of course, in terms of two receding I-beams. They're very much like the live show that I'm doing now in a way, except that the orientation is different. Instead of going into a perspective, a choice of places you can go, a record of the places you've been. In the live show, it's a T-shape, a kind of different kind of narrative going along one axis, and then unchangeable events that happens along another. So since a lot of the performance that I'm doing, and a little bit of that leaked into the CD-ROM, is about time, then that became very essential to thinking of how you move through not just these places, because that's always the most convenient metaphor for a CD-ROM, rooms and corridors and doors and stuff, but also through different kinds of time, so that how does time affect those things. I met Chen Chen at the New York Film Festival. He was doing a demonstration of his CD-ROM, and he'd won a contest that Voyager sponsored. So all the contest winners come to the New York Film Festival, and it was weird to see CD-ROMs shown in that kind of situation. Now people are very used to seeing all kinds of video pieces and computer-generated pieces, but not so much seeing file edit menu up there and somebody's like down trying to like, well, how's that? I don't know. You know, it was clumsy, which I liked about it, and I like the early phases of stuff when it looks like it doesn't quite work. And Shen Chen's images, like they were really lovely, because what attracted me to them was the darkness, because I wanted to make something that was about going the back of your mind, you know, and just having small things to try to get there, and not have everything like pounding out towards you. So when I saw his work, I said, well, will you work with me on this CD-ROM? So it was a very interesting collaboration because he's from Taiwan, and his English was, I would say, I would only get about one word out of about 50 when I first talked to him. And I'm thinking, how are we going to do this? We began like drawing charts and things, which is how I like to work when working on a project, is just fill a whole room with diagrams, and how does that go with that, with that, with that. Start little sketches and stories and that, but basically to work in a room like that. We designed a lot of these places, and then just do endless sketches, and then we'd say, we'll try to make this. For example, there's a chalk room in there, which we just called the chalk room, and it was based on a room that I had a few years ago in my loft. I wanted to have a writing room, and I'd found spray-on slate. So I, covered the ceiling, floor, and walls with this blackboard. So you just can write anything everywhere, and then you can kind of erase it with your socks. And it was a wonderful room. So I thought, well, let's have that, make that place, and then let's try to do like maybe at least 6 things in each place that we would make, like either in terms of the tools you could use, and my favorite in terms of doing computer graphics is the smear tool. So I just like, what, I was working on that last summer, just doing a lot of animations. I, like a lot of people who work with Photoshop, you begin to see the whole world as having the potential to use the smear tool on it, and just, hey, let's just maybe soften that edge. And so that became the eraser in that room. And then so in other words, originally these were all just going to be stories, and you'd see a little person reading them, and there'd be maybe something happening. The reason that I tried to minimize my own participation in it was because I got scared by a Marvin Minsky disc, and he's scampering around like a little, like, kind of mouse in his world. Hi, I'm Marvin, welcome to my world. I did invent artificial intelligence, but now I'm this little horrid creature who's going to show you all these things, and the motion is, and so I thought, oh, this is like, I want to build a mind rather than point to one over there. I think that the people at Voyager wished that there was more stuff that I did in terms of performance-wise in this. I myself think there should be less, but just because of that element of like the at the moment I particularly in the scale that we were working with, which was a puppet show. The places tended to have the same kind of perspective, take up the same amount of imaginary space. They didn't play a lot with, looming images and things like coming in, and that would have been a lot of fun. I tried to think of it as the kind of thing that you wouldn't have to sit and stare at to have fun with it, that you could put it kind of on automatic. So I put a radio in it, that it could be a radio or a regular CD, and then you could let it go, and you wouldn't have to look at those pictures. I mean, I suppose that's most people's main criticism of CD-ROMs, like that, or computers in general, or the net, or anything, is that it's, people they get cabin fever, they get screen locked, they become weird, they're like nerds, and it's so antisocial to sit at your computer, it's so lonely, and so on. And I just think that's like ridiculous, as if it weren't really antisocial to sit and read a book. But it's an amazing Mozart opera going out there on the net, and it's a mixture of these weird rumors and lies and kind of false information. It's not an information highway whatsoever. It's just bunch of people in disguises. And I just want to say one last thing, which was my first experience on a website. I was talking to someone who said his interests were music and sand. And I said, cool. And we started talking, and my one LSD experience is, I thought, I'm on the beach, and so I thought, I'm going to choose 6 grains of sand. And then, so I did, and still have them in a box, you know, you open it and it lights up. Yeah. And anyway, I also taken some electron microscope pictures of these things, and I sent them to this guy. And it was 2 days later that I found out that he was he was 4.5 years old, and that his interest in sand was going out in his backyard and playing in his sandbox. So I thought, great, you know, I would never search this guy out at a party. You know, let's talk music and sand. Now, in fact, this may be a 90-year-old woman I'm talking to, not a 4.5-year-old kid. Who knows? It's so amazing to not have a body, to be invisible. You don't have to be yourself. And you can just go floating freely around there and just making these kind of odd contacts. And that's why I appreciate that as kind of imaginary free zone. That I think that's what attracts people to it more than anything else.